It is now time for the final edition of our playoff preview series, and it's very fitting that we're ending on the matchup between mine and Billy's two favorite teams. Hey, it's Matt from Puck Rivals, and this North Division preview features the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Montreal Canadiens, something that hasn't happened since 1979. Given it has been over 40 years since they've met in the playoffs, you'd think there'd be a ton of hype for it, right? Well, it's probably not as much as you would expect with that storyline. There is some excitement because of the rivalry alone, but these are teams who trended in two different directions this year. The Leafs stayed pretty much untouched in first all season, whereas the Habs had a solid start, then struggled, had a coaching change, and then struggled to get the final points to clinch fourth in the division, which basically everyone knew they would eventually get. But the important part there is they made it, so nothing from the regular season matters anymore, and anything can happen in the playoffs. In these videos, we look at the head-to-head matchup between the two teams, key players in the series, and at the end reveal who we think will come out on top. We have a playlist where you can find all of these first round previews, so be sure to check that out when you're done this video. Leave a comment on who you think will win this series, and with that, let's get right into the comparisons of these two. Now, these team stats are not pretty for Montreal, especially the head-to-head 3-6-1 record against the Leafs. They clearly had a tough time with Toronto and their high-powered offense. The Leafs are 6th in the NHL in goals per game and 7th in goals against per game, so it really gives the impression that Montreal's unmatched here. And to add to that, Toronto's plus 39 goal differential is significantly better than the Habs' -9. The true wildcard here lies in special teams. Even though Toronto owns the better power play percentage, it has been very bad since March. Both teams didn't have the greatest penalty kills either, so the special teams area of the game is wide open. And if either team can get their power play clicking in the playoffs, it could be a huge advantage. And with it being playoffs along with the huge rivalry in this series, there are some players who will step up their game to be big difference makers in this matchup. So let's get into the key player for each team, starting with Toronto's scoring superstar Auston Matthews. This year's Rocket Richard winner was an easy pick as the Leafs' key player. Matthews has some of the best puck control in the league, and with his size and strength, it is extremely hard to get the puck from. He can score at will and break games open with his amazing shot, the one that led to him scoring 41 goals in 52 games this season, leading Connor McDavid by 8 goals, who finished second. Matthews scores with consistency and does most of it 5-on-5, which in the playoffs is insanely useful. A huge reason for his scoring pace has to do with his unpredictability. Matthews doesn't have one go-to location with his shots, which makes it really hard for goalies to read him. And to top it all off, he has absolutely crushed the Habs over his career with an impressive 31 points in 24 games. Having 19 of those be goals, it's clear that he likes to score against his first round opponent. But there's one guy on the other side of the ice that's known for shutting down some of the best players in the league when playoff time comes around. That guy is goalie Carey Price. Price has been the backbone of the Habs franchise for such a long time now, and their success directly correlates with how Price is doing. He definitely had a down year for Carey Price standards, but as I said at the beginning of the video, stats don't matter anymore. It's a clean slate now, and that's where he has shined over his career. Price has been dealing with an injury, but it's assumed he will be back in time for the start of the series, and the Habs fans sure hope that's the case. He had a monster playoffs in the bubble, and was able to shut down Crosby and the Penguins in what was a huge upset in the play-ins. I don't think anyone would disagree with me saying that they couldn't have done that without Price. He has played the Leafs a ton over his career and has put up solid numbers against them. If they have any chance of beating Toronto, they will need a healthy Price to weather the storm against the high-powered Leafs offense. But aside from these two players, there are plenty of other factors that will impact how this series goes. So flipping back to the Leafs, let's look at what some of those factors are. The key to the Leafs' dynamic offense is attacking with speed and keeping puck possession in the offensive zone. And besides Matthews, they have plenty of offensive threats. Mitch Marner, John Tavares, William Nylander, and Zach Hyman all have 15 goals or more this season, and all are critical parts of the Leafs generating scoring opportunities. But it's also important to point out what the Leafs were able to do this year that isn't typical of them: playing well defensively. TJ Brodie, Jake Muzzin, and Justin Holl have been huge to shutting down opposing teams, breaking up plays, and keeping the puck away from the dangerous parts of the defensive zone. The three of them have done a great job of stabilizing what used to be considered a very anxiety-inducing defensive group. The Leafs also have one of the strongest leadership groups they've had in such a long time. Jason Spezza, Joe Thornton, and Wayne Simmons have been great influences on the team, which noticeably had a lot less panic moments compared to past years. Lastly, Jack Campbell's season was huge for a team that solely relied on Frederik Andersen for everything over the past half-decade. His 17-3-2 record was nothing short of impressive, and they will need him to continue that into his very first playoffs if they want to go on any kind of run here. As for the Habs, they play a much different style. Most of their skill guys are very young, and the team overall relies on depth scoring and plays a physical style. They have a ton of experienced players, and have last year's playoffs to look back at for their young players like Suzuki and Kakaniemi, who will know what to expect going in this time around. Tyler Toffoli, Nick Suzuki, and Tomas Tatar were the only 3 Habs forwards that cracked 30 points this year. So any success against the Leafs will come from all 4 lines chipping in. With Brendan Gallagher, Shea Weber, Philip Deneau, and Carey Price all just getting back from injury, the Habs will need more from their young players, since it's more than likely that their vets aren't playing at 100%. In the crease, it's obvious. They need playoff Carey Price. But worst case scenario, they at least have an experienced backup option in Allen who could take over, but against this Leaf team, they will need whoever is in net to steal some games for them. And now for who we think will take this series. For myself, I'm taking the Leafs, and it was an easy decision. 1, because they were far and away the better team this year, and 2, because I'm a Leafs fan. For Billy's pick, he's taking the Habs to upset the Leafs here. And I wouldn't expect anything different, honestly. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs, and upsets aren't really an uncommon thing. As I said at the beginning, this series isn't as hyped up as you would think when hearing the storyline, but I bet when the puck drops and a couple hits are thrown, it will get a lot more heated. With the amount of pressure on the Leafs to go on a run this year, all it takes is an early lead in the series from the Habs to potentially cause absolute chaos. If this matchup gets heated enough, this might even cause the end of this channel if things between Billy and I get too tense. I'm totally kidding, but if the Habs pull off this upset with the Leafs as clear favorites, I'm never going to hear the end of it. Do you agree with our predictions? Let us know in the comments what you thought and who your cup favorite is. We have a playlist with all of the first round matchups, so check that playlist link in the description to watch all those. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you like hockey videos, because that's what we do on this channel. This is Matt from Puck Rivals, and I'll see you next time.